You gotta believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do whatever the hell you want to do. By repeatedly believing in yourself and continuing this notion of proving that you can do things, you start to understand who you actually are.
Adrian, this is wonderful to have you here because in reading about you and hearing what you have done, you really have a broad range of performing and writing and composing and producing. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my honor.
Where did this begin? Where did music start in your life?
I've always loved music ever since I was a little kid. I could remember hearing Run DMC, and Michael Jackson. I just loved it. Music always did something to me. For some odd reason, I look at music as the most important form of art, I guess because it's that universal language and it just all kind of creates a visceral reaction in all of us. And I felt that when I was young. So I always knew I'd be doing something in music. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I always knew I was going to be doing something.
You play many instruments. So are you self-taught? How'd you get that kind of grasp over so many instruments?
I got the grasp of being able to be a multi-instrumentalist because the people I relied on smoked a lot of weed. So what that meant was that when we're supposed to do things, when they're supposed to be at my house to record, oh man, I gotta pick up my weed, or let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. So essentially, I learned how to play a lot of instruments so that I didn't have to rely on anyone else, and also so that I can become the artist who I'm supposed to be. I always feel like everybody has somebody inside of them, and it's up to them to actually curate that person and refine that person in order for them to be who they're supposed to be. I guess I was just supposed to be somebody that could tackle these different instruments because that is an integral part of the way I compose and produce. So when I'm in the studio, when I'm creating a world, I see the world from different vantage points. I see the world from a bass player, I see it from a drummer, I see it from a pianist. Because I started this journey 20 years ago, I gained the ability to be able to go from A to Z, to be able to create a song without having to rely on a bunch of people, and it just gave me a freedom of expression that I would never have had unless I stuck to just learning how to play this stuff. So I learned how to play these instruments by just sitting in front of them and figuring it out. And what I was figuring out was what was going on in my head. I started really creating music around 96. And I started creating music with an MPC 2000 percussion sampler and a 8-track Tascam Porta Studio. And my goal was to be able to sample these records that I loved in order to make derivative music that was akin to these hip-hop luminaries I aspired to be like Tribe Called Quest or the Wu-Tang Clan or whomever it may be. And I was making these beats and sampling, and what I realized is that I'd listen to a record and I'd hear a melody when I'm looking to sample it, and I'm hoping the melody would go somewhere else. I would have this thing in my head where it's like, okay, I hope it goes doom ba boo ba doo 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 boom, but it would go boom ba doo doo doo. And I'm like, damn, okay, let me go to the next record. And I started noticing that there was something in my head telling me that I could go further. So I realized that these records were inspiring me more than the derivative hip-hop versions I was making by sampling these records. So I determined that in order for me to be who I was supposed to become, I needed to learn how to play these instruments. I needed to learn their compositional perspectives. And I also needed to understand how to create with that sonic palette. Because by listening to these records, I really realized that my golden era of sound was between 68 to 73. So I was just really entrenching myself in this world of vinyl, but seeing this world of vinyl through the vantage point of hip hop that said, okay, make the drums a little fatter, make the bass mid-range a little fatter, and have a full resolution analog type sound. So that's kind of the etiology of Adrian Younge, I guess.
Yeah. So who were you listening to at that time? Who were you? Who was influencing you?
Okay, so around that time I was 18, so I was very much into DJ Premier, Wu-Tang, and Tribe Called Quest. But at the same time, listening to Tony with Raphael Sadiq and Guy, but also Luther Vandross. How I started making my switch, this was the line of demarcation to me. This is where I became a real artist.
Yeah.
It's when I was sampling old records like Ennio Morricone, Curtis Mayfield, and getting my mind blown by what they were doing. And then realizing that, wait a minute, hip hop is now serving as this conduit to the past and teaching me about what came before. But hip hop only focused on the break, which was that element of the song that you could loop that was just the hottest part.
Yeah.
Now, when you go back to the records, you not only hear the break, but you hear the evolution of whatever that idea was.
Right.
So I was hearing music fully realized. I was hearing Curtis Mayfield fully realized. I was hearing Isaac Hayes fully realized. Pink Floyd and King Crimson fully realized. And I was now opening up my mind in order to see how far you can actually go with music. It wasn't just somebody rapping and a loop and some drums on it, and when the hook comes in, you have a little guitar sample or a little piano sample. These were fully realized compositions with orchestra on top of that.
Yeah.
So it showed me how far you can go as an artist. And it was this time when I was 18 where I had to start opening my mind from being the person that would hear that great record and say, yo, I need to sample that, to the person that's hearing that great record and saying, I need to try to make something better than that. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Boy, that's powerful. So how did you embraced analog and vinyl? You kind of really went back to that old school sound.
Yeah.
Why?
At that time, I wouldn't call it going back, because this is 20 years ago for me.
Yeah.
At that time, this is when we were changing from analog to digital. Okay, so digital was new, and digital was the way to get a clean sound. That's what it was called, the clean sound. It was supposed to be a higher fidelity. It was marketed as being a higher fidelity. It was marketed as putting you in the position where you can create just high quality demos. So I remember I went to Guitar Center because they had a deal on a Fostex hard drive digital recorder. It was only like $100 difference. I was like, oh damn, I don't gotta buy tapes anymore. Yo, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna be a pro. So I took my 8-track back, got a Fostex hard drive 8-track, and I was recording, and when it played back, I was like, yo, why does it sound like that? Let me do this again. And what I started hearing was there was a lack of presence. And I was only like 18, right? Then I just started asking questions. And I realized that there was a difference between analog and digital. And this was something that intuitively, so I took the machine back, got my cassette 8-track,
Analog,
and then from there progressed to a 1/4-inch 8-track, to a 16-track 1/2-inch, to the 2-inch tape machine that I still use to this day.
Fantastic.
And it was more so me recording on a form of media that spoke to me personally. So for what I do, for what I love, everything is just analog. But that's me, and that's better it's a subjective thing.
But you really have taken ownership of that. I mean, that really is your sound.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, my thing is, as an artist, why would you ever not try to be your best?
Absolutely.
Why would you cut corners? So with my recording, I do everything 2-inch 16-track. I mix down to 1/4-inch. I use all organic instruments. There are no computers in my studio. There are no plugins for compression. Everything is the way it was done. Now, the reason why I do it the way it was done is because I approach music from an artisan perspective. I like to create things that are handcrafted. I like people to hear the human in the art. I like them to feel the human in art. I like them to see the mistakes. I like them to embrace the perspective. So the perspective is that what I'm doing is full resolution, very high fidelity, but it's raw at the same time. And that's what the tape machines give me. That's what my old microphones give me. That's what my old preamps give me. And it's not about trying to rehash the past, because I'm totally against that. It's about trying to be classic. and putting yourself in the position as an artist where your music, your art can remain timeless.
Boy, I love that. I love that philosophy. Was your family a musical family that you started evolving into music and having this broader picture of the music industry?
Not at all. My family's from the Caribbean, so I listened to a lot of reggae in the house, but at the same time it was still Prince, Michael, Luther. It was the same thing. Same things. So it wasn't that I was around all this music. It was just that music just spoke to me in a way that no other art really spoke to me.
You seem to have aside from the passion, but the courage to seek your own sound and individuality.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
Well, my philosophy in life, right, is if you don't take yourself seriously, why should anyone else, right? If you don't curate and redefine who you're supposed to be,
right,
why should anybody else take you seriously? So I have my beliefs, my artistic perspectives, my idiosyncrasies when it comes to my vantage points as far as creating art. And I really believe in those for myself. So I fully embrace that and fully embody it. And the reason why I do it, this may sound strange, but I do all this for this. There's an audience in my head that I always have to impress, right? And so every time I'm making an album, every time I'm making a song, I have to ask this audience in my head whether it's cool or not. And if they applaud, then that means I'm successful. And then when I come back to reality, I just hope other people like it. And then that's what kind of keeps me grounded, because in part of my journey as a musician, I always study. In order to be the best, you should study those who came before you. As a DJ, as I have a record store, as being somebody that's fully entrenched into that world, I always look to see why my favorite people fell off, why my favorite musicians went in the wrong direction. And to me, that answer has always been that they stopped listening to themselves. They got to a certain point in life because they believed in themselves and they were doing something different that was fresh, something that cut through all the bull. And then a lot of times they get stuck in a rut and they want to try to do what's in vogue, and they start listening to other people. And then when they start listening to other people, the audience is gone. The audience in their head's not coming to the shows anymore. They're not listening. So they have no one to talk to, and they're always trying to constantly find themselves. So because of that perspective, I'm always trying to listen to myself, believe in myself, while obviously taking people's opinions into consideration, but really taking my thoughts with high regard and just going full force and just doing that.
Where did the entertainment law desire come in?
For me, I always feel, I'm very adamant in the notion that somebody should always try to be their best, right? In college, my plan was to be a politician and an attorney and help out my friends in the music world. When I was 18, when I was in college, I had a political science class, and within the first week, I went to a rally, a Democratic rally, and I thought it was one of the wackest things I've ever been to, because I'm in there and I'm like, yo, this is a whack music scene with a bunch of groupies. I can't do this. I can't do this. Because it just didn't feel real to me. So I said, I'm not doing that part, but I still want to be a lawyer. I still want to do music. So my thing was that, for me, in order for me to be my best, having the education side, being an academic, and also being able to tap into that right brain and be an artist, it works for me. It works for me because I can review my own contracts. I can negotiate in a way that the average person, can't do, and it also just puts me at a real advantage just for business in general,
Absolutely. This is the ultimate advantage, that you have this level of understanding, which most artists do not.
Right.
And for a big part of it, that's where they fail.
Absolutely.
They fail at that business side, with even bringing in an entertainment lawyer to even look at a contract. So you have that balance, which is incredible. Tell me about Black Dynamite.
So Black Dynamite. Black Dynamite is a film that was released in 2009, and it was a modern blaxploitation film. Right. So it was written by Michael Jai White, Byron Mins, and Scott Sanders. Now, around 2006, Scott Sanders, which is one of my really close friends, we DJed together for years, and he would always come to my house and say, "Why do you have all this old ass, dumb ass equipment in here, man? Like, what are you doing, bro?" I was like, "Well, I love music, man. I'm gonna do music." He's like, "Well, yeah, but you're really cool at film too," because at the time I was a documentarian and I was editing a lot of films, directing a lot of just documentaries on hip hop culture, dance, and all that stuff. So he's like, "Hopefully someday this works out for you." I was like, "Nah, man, I know it's gonna, bro. Don't worry about it. It's gonna work out." So one day hit me. He was like, "Yo, Mike Jaw White just gave me a call, and he says he's working on a film called Superbad. He just wrote the script, and it's a blaxploitation thing. You know, it'd be crazy." I was like, "What?" He's like, "It'd be crazy if you actually got to edit this thing and do the score," because he would always see me with this crazy equipment. I was like, "Yo, I'd love to." So we met with Michael, and we all hit it off. And we literally put a trailer together where at that time we had to go rent VHS, like, Coffee and Blackula, all these old blaxploitation films. And we used those films and we shot on Super 8 scenes to intercut with those. So we created a trailer, sent it to a financier. They responded, "This is cool, but why are you sending me this?" "Well, this is something that we're trying to do." His name's John Steingard, is one of my very good friends now, and he was like, "Yo, let's make this a real film." So I was able to become the editor of this film. I was able to score this film. And it was released in 2009, and that was the real start of my actual career. What Black Dynamite showed the world as far as me was that it showed the world that you can still make music that has that feeling, that organic feeling that we've lost in this digital age, and it's just has served as the bedrock of my modern career.
Well, it's amazing how you evolved into this is really what happened. You kind of, Luke Cage.
Luke Cage is the first Black Marvel television show. Right. The showrunner is Cheo Coker. He asked myself and Ali Shaheed Muhammad to score Luke Cage. Unbeknownst to Cheo, Ali and I were already working on an album that we didn't even announce yet. So he hit us up separately, saying that he would like us to collectively work on this thing, which is really strange. And we met with Cheo and we said, "Yo, we'd love to do it." But it was just kind of too good to be true. It was too good to be true, because he's like, "Yo, the guy's he loves 90s hip hop, but he loves like 70s stuff." I was like, "Yeah, all right, bro, this is a little too good to be true." Make a long story short, we met with Marvel, and they loved us, and we got the job. And Ali and I looked at each other and said, "Okay, let's really go in on this thing, bro. Let's really go in." And what we're allowed to do is create the music that we loved, and bring in orchestra to do it, and just basically create a score for a television show that made you feel like those old shows did back in the day, or those old films where you're listening and you're watching and you're like, "Damn, this music is so insane. It's just so different." We really wanted to make something that created a world for Luke Cage. A lot of people refer to the music as another lead character.
Yeah.
We completed the second season. The second season is even better than the first, and we're just really, really excited about it.
Well, it's amazing how you compose and arrange and put this together, so you give the music its own character-based sound.
Yes.
And it really jumps out
Yeah.
as a major part of the story.
Wow.
How do you create this? What's the process?
And being an artist, as I noted earlier, you got to really take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
You really have to. And in taking yourself seriously, you have to really curate your thoughts. It has to be based on a lot of reasons so that you can defend yourself when criticism comes.
Right.
So when you live life with that perspective, it really sharpens your thought process. And that's something that really exemplifies myself and Ali Shaheed. When we were approached to create this score for Luke Cage, we told Marvel, we told Cheo that in the script, you guys have a lot of needle drops. Needle drops are basically different pieces of music you want to license to kind of showcase the world. We said, let's get rid of most of these needle drops and let's actually compose something for it. In saying that, you got to have balls, because you're saying, you know, get rid of Lou Donaldson, get rid of Curtis Mayfield, get rid of this Nas song because you want to compose something for it instead. So we said we wanted to do this because we wanted to create certain feelings, certain sentiments for different characters and different movements within the world of Luke Cage. So this character may be based on just the drums and Fender Rhodes, while this character may be based on what we love with flute and harpsichords. Like, we wanted to do something that was just so deep, where the music spoke, because this is an audio-visual job.
Yeah.
So I always say that the best music communicates to people without words, right? Just chord changes and melody.
Yeah.
And when you could synergize that with your instrumentality, deciding what instruments should go here, what kind of vocal, like voice, like a oohs and a ahs, like operatic vocals should go here or there, but using no words to tell the story or enhance what we're seeing on screen. At the end of the day, if you take yourself that seriously and you do it right, it's gonna work. And that's what we did in Luke Cage.
How fantastic. Well, it's very exciting at many, many levels.
Thank you.
In closing, let's look at this next generation watching this. And they're looking at this and they understand who you are, they listen to your music, they're inspired by what you're doing. What would you say to them to give them some kind of a advice and or hope for how they can achieve their individual sound and persona in their life?
So two things I want to talk about is inspiration and fear. But the nucleus of that is belief, right? So you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you can do whatever the hell you want to do. If you want to be president, you can stop what you're doing and work on being the president of the United States. If you want to be an actor or an actress, you can stop what you're doing and focus on that. In believing in yourself, you're proving to yourself that you can do something. That's what believing in yourself is. By repeatedly believing in yourself and continuing this notion of proving that you can do things, you start to understand who you actually are. You put yourself in the position where you don't really have fear, because winning is about making yourself proud. Winning is about understanding that as long as you put your best effort forward, there's nothing else you can do. So you can't fear stuff. So what I'm trying to say here is you have to believe in yourself. And then when you believe in yourself and you embody that principle to its fullest, you do something that I call inspiring others. So I always say to people, I don't make music for props. I don't make music for a pat on the back. I make music to inspire other people. If I'm having a show, if I come out with a new album and somebody's like, yo man, I love your stuff, it's so amazing to me, that's cool because they're being nice to me, right? But when they say to me, that record you made me close my laptop and pick up an instrument. That record you made me put my phone down and buy a record player because I wanted to study everything that you're talking about through your music. That's the inspiration part. And that's what I do this for. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's basically about teaching others that they gotta really believe in themselves. I want people just to believe in themselves without any fear. And I want them to study the past in order to be inspired to move forward.
I love your passion. Your passion is so evident.
Yeah.
That's what's going to keep you forever young. Maybe forever should be your middle name.
Forever. Cool.
What's
Thank
amazing
you.
is that the audience that is outside, for sure the audience that is in my head, is equal to the love of the audience in your head. So it's all working out tremendously well.
Great.
Adrian, on behalf of the Sessions,
Cool.
we thank you so much.
Thank you, and appreciate it, Dom. Thank you, man.